What if the heaviest burdens you carry are not the things that happened to you, but the things that were never said? Most people do not realize that the deepest wounds rarely come from loud, dramatic arguments. They come from quiet fading, from watching a door slowly close without anyone ever explaining why. There is a strange kind of suffering in being left behind in silence. If you have ever felt confused, suddenly invisible, or quietly left out of a social circle you once belonged to, this is for you. Stay until the end, because the final lesson may change the way you see this silence forever. 1. The heavy weight of unspoken goodbyes. Here is the truth few people want to face. Sometimes, a connection does not end with an explosion. It ends with a slow, fading ember, leaving you shivering, waiting for a warmth that is simply no longer there. When a friendship ends without a fight, it leaves a void filled with echoes. You notice the subtle shifts, the group chats that slowly go quiet, the plans made without you, the photographs of smiling faces in places you used to go together. Instantly, your mind begins to race. You replay your last few interactions, searching through your memories like a detective looking for a crime that was never committed. You wonder if you said something wrong. You ask yourself if you were too much, or perhaps not enough. You are left holding onto a rope, pulling with all your might, not realizing the other person dropped their end a long time ago. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that attachment is the root of our suffering. However, in these moments of quiet rejection, we are not just attached to the person or the social circle. We are deeply attached to the explanation. We suffer because our mind demands a reason. We crave a neat conclusion, a final chapter to a story that the other person simply stopped reading. We believe that if we just knew why, the pain would disappear. Imagine standing on the shore of a vast, misty lake. You throw a heavy stone into the water, expecting to hear a loud splash and watch the ripples return to your feet. But instead, the water swallows the stone in complete, unnatural silence. No splash, no ripples, nothing. For a long time, you might stand there on the wet earth, staring at the dark water, waiting for a reaction. When none comes, you might pick up another stone. You throw it harder, and another. You exhaust your body, throwing pieces of your energy into the depths, demanding that the water respond. This is exactly what happens when you obsess over an unexplained exit. You keep throwing your mental energy, your overthinking, and your worry into an empty space that is giving nothing back. You drain your spirit trying to force the water to ripple. You sacrifice your own dignity waiting for an echo from an empty room. Think about your own life. How much of your inner peace are you trading for someone who is entirely comfortable with your confusion? What are you afraid will happen if you simply stop asking why? Stop, breathe, observe this desperate need for an answer without letting it consume you. Stop trying to force the door open. You are allowed to let the silence be exactly what it is. You do not have to stand by the water forever. You can choose to drop the stones, turn around, and walk away. Because true peace is not found in uncovering every answer. It is found when you stop asking the wrong questions. But letting go of the need for an explanation is only the very first step. And this is where the next truth begins. Because beneath the silence, your own mind is setting a dangerous trap. 2. The illusion of closure and the trap of overthinking. What if the harder you try to solve the mystery of someone's absence, the deeper you lock yourself in a prison of your own making? When a friendship dissolves into thin air, your mind becomes desperate. It tries to fill the empty space with theories. You lie awake at night, analyzing old text messages. You dissect casual conversations from months ago, wondering if a simple joke was taken the wrong way, or if a moment of vulnerability made them pull back. You watch them continue their lives from a distance. You see them sharing inside jokes and making memories with the very social circle you used to call home. Instantly, you feel the sharp sting of being easily replaced. You believe that if you can just figure out the why, you will finally feel at peace. This is the illusion of closure. We are taught that every story needs a clear ending, that every door must be firmly shut and locked before we can walk away. But in Buddhist thought, the mind is a relentless storyteller, often creating suffering where there only needs to be silence. Buddhism reminds us that the mind craves certainty above all else. It will invent a painful lie before it accepts a quiet unknown. One of the deepest lessons of Buddhism is that closure is not a gift someone else hands to you neatly wrapped in an apology. It is a decision you make within yourself. When you obsess over the actions of others, you are allowing your mind to drag you into a past that no longer exists. The suffering does not come entirely from their absence. It comes from your stubborn resistance to their absence. Imagine a bird that has flown into a quiet room through an open window. Instead of looking back at the open sky, the bird sees its reflection in a closed glass mirror. It throws itself against the hard glass again and again, exhausting its wings, confused as to why it cannot break through. The bird believes the mirror is the only way out, completely ignoring the wide open sky just behind it. Every time you check their social media to see who they are spending time with, you are the bird hitting the glass. Every time you ask a mutual friend for updates or replay the memories trying to find your mistake, you are bruising your own spirit. You are begging a closed surface to give you freedom. You are looking for peace in the exact place that caused your pain. You are punishing yourself for a choice that someone else made. Ask yourself this: is this endless analyzing bringing you closer to peace, or is it only feeding your fear? What are you actually trying to hold on to? Is it the friendship as it truly was, or is it simply the comfort of belonging? Pause. Breathe. Observe the thought without following it down the spiral. When the urge to check on them arises, let the feeling rise without making it your identity. You are not the rejection. You are the quiet space beneath it. Do not judge the thought. Simply watch it pass like a dark cloud, drifting across a wide, clear sky. Stop trying to force the door open. You do not need their explanation to move forward. You only need your own permission. You can choose to leave the story unfinished. You can choose to turn around and fly out of the open window, because true freedom begins the moment you stop demanding that the past make sense. But to truly stop fighting the past, we must first understand the true nature of all relationships. And this brings us to the next profound truth. 3. The Buddhist truth of impermanence in relationships. Here is a truth that is deeply difficult to swallow. What if the pain you are feeling right now is not actually because the friendship ended, but because you secretly demanded that it last forever? We are conditioned to believe that meaningful connections never fade. We build our daily routines, our comfort zones, and sometimes our very identities around specific people. So when someone quietly steps away, or when a social circle subtly closes its ranks and leaves you standing on the outside, it feels like a violent disruption. You watch them drift away, and your first instinct is to freeze time. You try to hold on to the version of them that used to care. You try to anchor yourself to the group that used to include you. You suffer because you have categorized their quiet departure as a personal failure. You view it as a mistake that needs to be fixed, rather than a natural shift in the seasons of life. One of the deepest lessons of Buddhism is the undeniable reality of impermanence. In Buddhist thought, absolutely nothing in the human experience remains static. Everything is in continuous, silent motion. Friendships, much like the weather or the turning tides, have natural lifespans. They arise, they exist for a time, and very often, they gently dissolve. Buddhism reminds us that our most profound suffering is born from clinging. We suffer immensely when we demand that a flowing river remain perfectly still. Imagine a quiet, rushing river winding through a dense forest. Two autumn leaves fall from different trees and land on the surface of the water. For a long time, the current carries them perfectly side by side. They navigate the same dangerous rocks, swirl in the same quiet eddies, and bask in the same patches of morning sunlight. They seem destined to travel the entire length of the river together. But eventually, the water widens. A subtle, unseen shift in the current catches one leaf and pulls it gently toward the distant shore, while the other is carried steadily toward the center. The first leaf did not betray the second. The river did not make a terrible mistake. The water simply moved them in different directions. This is exactly how human connections work. You share a beautiful, vital chapter of your life with someone. You share the same environment, the same jokes, and the same emotional space. But as lives evolve, as silent internal priorities shift, the current changes. When you are quietly left out of a gathering, or when the unread messages pile up, it hurts. But trying to force a friendship to remain exactly as it was, or begging to be included in a space where the energy has clearly shifted, is like trying to push a fallen leaf back upstream with your bare hands. It only leaves you exhausted, shivering, and soaked in frustration. Think about your own life. Are you mourning the people they are today, or are you simply mourning the memory of who they were yesterday? What are you still desperately holding onto that has already let go of you? Pause, breathe, observe the memory without feeling the need to possess it. You do not have to harbor anger toward them for leaving, and you do not have to sacrifice your dignity to force them to stay. Let the feeling of loss rise without making it your identity. Stop trying to drag the river backward. You can allow the past to be beautiful without demanding that it become your future. Because true peace is not found in forcing the river to stop. It is found in letting the water flow. But accepting this natural movement requires something fiercely protective within yourself. It requires you to realize that someone else walking away does not decrease your value. And this is where the next truth begins. 4. Detaching your self-worth from the actions of others. Here is a hard truth about silent rejections. What if the most damaging thing about being left out is not their absence, but the terrible story you tell yourself about your own value? When a friendship fades without a word, the ego panics. You watch a social circle close its ranks, leaving you standing in the cold. Immediately, your mind translates their silence into your inadequacy. You look at the empty space they left behind and whisper to yourself, "I must not be enough. If I mattered, they would not have walked away so easily." You tie your fundamental worth to their invitation. You wait for their validation to prove that you are still lovable, still interesting, and still worthy of taking up space. But Buddhist wisdom teaches us that our deepest pain comes from building our identity on shifting sands. We suffer because we place the keys to our inner peace in the pockets of other people. Buddhism reminds us that the actions of others are driven by their own internal weather, their own confusion, and their own shifting priorities. Their choice to leave, or their subtle decision to exclude you, is a reflection of where they are on their journey. It is not a measurement of your value. Imagine the bright full moon reflecting perfectly on the surface of a quiet midnight lake. The reflection is clear, bright, and whole. Now imagine someone walking up to the edge of the water and throwing a handful of heavy stones into the center. The water violently splashes. The surface becomes chaotic and broken. For a moment, the beautiful reflection of the moon is completely shattered into 1,000 jagged pieces. If you only look at the water, you might believe the moon itself has been destroyed. But look up into the sky. The moon remains whole. It remains perfectly untouched, silently glowing, completely unaffected by the turbulence on the surface below. This is exactly what happens when you let the actions of others dictate your self-worth. When a friend ignores you, when you are left out of a weekend gathering, or when someone simply stops trying. They are throwing stones into your water. They are creating turbulence. Your mind reacts, your emotions break, and you suddenly believe your worth has been shattered. You feel small and discarded, but your true self, your inherent value, is the moon in the sky. It cannot be diminished, damaged, or broken by the careless actions of someone else. Ask yourself this: are you mourning the loss of a true connection, or are you simply craving their validation to prove that you matter? What happens to your peace when you allow someone else's silent retreat to determine your worth? Pause. Breathe. Observe the sharp sting of rejection without letting it define you. Let the feeling rise, but do not claim it as your ultimate truth. Stop waiting for an empty room to tell you that you are enough. You do not have to shrink yourself to fit into a circle that no longer has space for you. You are not powerless. You can choose to look up at the sky instead of staring at the broken water. Because true peace is not about forcing people to see your value. It is about knowing your value so deeply that their blindness no longer hurts. But protecting this inner light requires you to completely change how you view their absence. And this is where the next truth begins. 5. The metaphor of the empty room. What if the silence someone leaves behind is not a punishment, but a profound clearing of space? When a friendship quietly dissolves, the most startling part is the sudden, deafening emptiness. The weekend arrives, and your phone is silent. The inside jokes have nowhere to land. The social circle you once belonged to gathers without you, leaving a hollow ache in your daily routine. Your immediate instinct is to panic. You want to rush in and fill the void. You consider sending another text, reaching out to someone who barely notices you, or desperately seeking out loud distractions just to drown out the quiet. You view this new emptiness as a tragic loss, a sign that your life has somehow become less vibrant. You feel that because you are alone, you have somehow failed. In Buddhist thought, emptiness is not something to fear. It is not a void that must be frantically filled. Buddhism teaches us that space is the fundamental requirement for all new growth. When a cup is completely full, it cannot receive a single drop of new water. When we cling tightly to fading connections and forced relationships, we crowd our own spirits. We suffer because we mistake the clearing of our path for a curse. We do not realize that sometimes life removes what is misaligned to make room for what is true. Imagine an old, cluttered room in the center of your house. For years, it was filled with heavy, mismatched furniture. It was crowded, slightly chaotic, and somewhat exhausting to navigate, but it was deeply familiar. You knew exactly how to walk through it, without bumping into the sharp edges. Then, one day, you walk in to find the room completely empty. All the furniture is gone. Your first reaction is shock. The room feels intensely cold. Your voice echoes in the sudden quiet. You stare at the bare walls and feel a deep, unsettling sense of loss. But as you stand there in the silence, you begin to notice something else. For the first time in years, soft morning sunlight is reaching the far corners of the floor. You take a deep breath and realize the air feels profoundly lighter. The room is no longer crowded with things you constantly have to maneuver around. It is a blank canvas. It is a sanctuary of quiet potential. This is exactly what happens when people quietly exit your life. The space they occupied is suddenly vacant. Yes, the sudden quiet can feel lonely. Yes, watching a group chat move on without you feels cold at first. But what if you stop trying to drag the heavy, broken furniture back inside? What if you stopped begging to sit in a room where you always had to shrink yourself just to fit? The emptiness they left behind is not a reflection of your lack of worth. It is a profound, expansive space returning to you. Think about your own life. Are you rushing to fill the silence just because you are afraid of the quiet? What could you build in this open space? if you stopped mourning the clutter that used to live there? Pause. Breathe. Observe the emptiness without rushing to fix it. Let the quiet settle around you without panic. Do not rush to fill the void with temporary noise or the desperate approval of others. Let the space simply be space. You do not have to chase what has already walked out the door. You are allowed to sit safely in the quiet light of your own presence, because inner peace is not about desperately holding on to everyone you meet. It is about becoming deeply comfortable in the open space they leave behind. But to truly rest in this space, you must stop trying to explain your worth to people who are no longer listening. And this is where the next truth begins. 6. Releasing the need to be understood. What if the most exhausting battle you are fighting is trying to explain your heart to someone who has already chosen to close their eyes? When a friendship slowly fades and you find yourself left outside the circle, a powerful urge takes over. You feel a desperate need to defend your character. You draft long, emotional messages in your mind that you never send. You imagine running into them and finally delivering the perfect words that will make them realize your worth. You worry about what they might be saying about you to mutual friends. You feel completely misunderstood, and this feels like a profound injustice. You believe that if you can just explain your side, if you can just make them see the purity of your intentions, the pain will stop and your dignity will be restored. But here is the truth. You cannot force clarity onto someone who is perfectly comfortable with their own misunderstanding. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that much of our suffering comes from the ego's relentless need to be right, to be seen, and to be validated by the external world. Buddhism reminds us that we have absolutely no control over the perceptions of others. Their view of you is filtered through their own past, their own limitations, and their own shifting emotions. When you exhaust yourself trying to change their mind, you are violently attaching yourself to an outcome you cannot control. You are handing them the pen and begging them to write your story. Imagine standing on a high, rocky cliff, facing a fierce, howling windstorm. In your hands, you hold a delicate, glowing lantern. You want the wind to see the beautiful, warm light. So you step closer to the edge, holding the fragile flame against the violent gusts, shouting into the roar of the storm, demanding that it stop blowing and simply look at your light. What happens? The wind does not hear you, the storm does not care about your light. And if you stand there long enough fighting the weather, the wind will eventually blow your flame completely out. This is exactly what happens when you try to prove your worth to a social circle that has quietly turned its back. Every time you try to correct their narrative, every time you desperately seek their understanding, you are shouting into the wind. You are letting their cold weather extinguish your inner warmth. You are fighting a storm that has no ears. Think about your own life. How much of your vital energy is being wasted trying to change the mind of someone who has already walked away? What are you actually defending, your true self, or the fragile image you want them to hold of you? Pause. Breathe. Observe the desperate urge to explain yourself and gently let it go. You do not have to correct their story. You do not have to prove you were a good friend. Do your part. Then release the outcome. Let them misunderstand you. Let them think whatever they choose to think. You can safely lower the lantern, turn your back to the storm, and walk back toward the quiet safety of your own truth. Because peace is not found in convincing the world of your value. It is found in resting quietly in the knowledge of who you are, even when no one else is watching. But to truly rest in this quiet knowledge, you must master the hardest discipline of all, and this is where the next truth begins. 7. The quiet strength of non-reaction. What if the most powerful thing you can do when someone suddenly leaves is absolutely nothing? Here is a truth that goes against every natural instinct in your body. When a social circle pushes you out, or a friendship fades without explanation, your ego screams for a reaction. You feel an overwhelming urge to prove that you are completely unaffected. You want to post a perfectly curated photograph online just to show them how happy you are without them. You consider sending a passive-aggressive message, or perhaps you want to walk past them in public and loudly ignore them. You convince yourself that if you can just show them how little you care, you will finally reclaim your lost power. But here is the hard reality. A loud reaction is just another form of begging to be seen. It proves that they still hold the remote control to your emotional state. Buddhist wisdom teaches us the profound power of the space between a feeling and an action. In Buddhist thought, the highest form of self-respect is found in non-reaction. Non-reaction is not a sign of weakness. It is not surrender, and it is not defeat. It is supreme emotional discipline. Buddhism reminds us that suffering is like a raging fire, and our reactions are the fuel. When we react from a place of deep hurt, we are simply tying ourselves tighter to the person who caused the pain. We are letting a dead connection dictate our living moments. Imagine a fierce campfire burning in the middle of a dry forest. If you try to violently stomp it out with your boots, the sharp embers will scatter into the brush and start an even larger, more destructive fire. If you throw dry leaves onto it, the flames will leap higher, consuming everything in their reach. But what if you simply step back? What if you flatly refuse to give it any more wood? Without new fuel, the fire has no choice. It will burn wildly for a short moment, but eventually it will slowly reduce to quiet, harmless ash. This is exactly how your pain operates when someone leaves you behind. Every time you try to prove a point, every time you vent about them to mutual friends, and every time you orchestrate a situation just to show them you are doing well, you are throwing dry leaves onto your own fire. You are keeping the ghost of the friendship alive through conflict. You are burning up your own inner peace just to cast a shadow in their direction. Think about your own life. Ask yourself, is your desire to react coming from a place of genuine peace, or is it just your bruised ego desperately trying to have the last word? What would happen if you simply let the fire burn out? Pause. Breathe. Notice the intense urge to react, but do not move. Let the feeling rise without making it an action. Do not send the message. Do not make the post. Let the silence be your ultimate answer. You do not have to prove that you are unbothered. Being truly unbothered is completely quiet. You can choose to keep your vital energy for yourself, because true strength is not about having the last word in a fading connection. It is about realizing the conversation is already over and walking away. But choosing to walk away requires you to make a fundamental decision about who gets access to your spirit. And this is where the next truth begins. 8. Protecting your peace over pleasing the crowd. What if you have been confusing your desire to belong with a deeply painful habit of self-abandonment? Here is a truth that is often uncomfortable to face. When a friendship ends silently, or a social circle closes its doors to you, the sudden isolation forces you to look at how you were truly acting when you were still inside. Often, if you look closely, you will realize how much of yourself you were quietly sacrificing just to keep the peace. You twisted your own opinions to match the group. You laughed at things that did not bring you joy. You silenced your own boundaries just to ensure you still received an invitation to the table. You convinced yourself that fitting into the crowd was a form of safety, but in reality, it was just a quiet, invisible form of exhaustion. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that peace can never be found by wearing a mask. In Buddhist thought, one of the greatest sources of suffering is our deep attachment to the approval of the world. We suffer because we lose our center. We outsource our happiness to the unpredictable moods of a crowd. Buddhism reminds us that when we desperately cling to external validation, we build a cage around our own spirit. We become so afraid of being cast out that we willingly lock ourselves inside a prison of people-pleasing. Imagine a strong, capable tree growing on the edge of a dense forest. For years, it bent its branches and severely twisted its trunk just to weave into the canopy of the trees next to it. It was terrified that if it stood straight and tall, it would be left alone, exposed to the cold wind. But by bending so far out of its natural shape, it choked off its own access to the sunlight. When a heavy storm finally comes and the surrounding trees sway far away, the bent tree is left awkwardly reaching into empty space, completely off balance, and dangerously close to breaking. It only rediscovers its true strength when it finally decides to pull its branches back, straighten its trunk, and root firmly into its own patch of earth. This is exactly what happens when you spend your life bending your personality, your values, and your energy just to please a social circle. When they inevitably walk away, you are left completely off balance, reaching desperately into empty space. You feel broken because you realize you were not just abandoned by them. You abandoned yourself a long time ago just to fit in. You traded your inner peace for a temporary seat at a crowded table. Think about your own life. Ask yourself this: were you truly deeply happy in that circle, or were you simply relieved that you were not alone? What parts of your own beautiful spirit did you have to quietly hide just to keep their company? Is it possible that their absence is actually setting you free? Pause, breathe, observe your fear of standing alone. Let the feeling rise without immediately rushing to find a new crowd to hide inside. Stop bending your branches to reach a forest that has moved away. You do not have to contort your soul to be worthy of companionship. You are not powerless. You can choose the quiet safety of your own authenticity over the loud, chaotic exhaustion of pleasing others. You can stand tall in your own light, because true belonging never requires you to abandon yourself. But realizing this opens the door to the ultimate transformation, and this is where the final truth begins. 9. Making space for new beginnings. What if the silence that once felt like a cruel punishment was actually life's gentle way of protecting you? In the beginning, watching a door slowly close without a sound feels like a devastating loss. You stood by that vast, misty lake, throwing the heavy stones of your own energy into the dark water, begging for an echo that was never coming. You exhausted your spirit, demanding a reason. You bruised your own wings against the closed glass, waiting for closure from people who simply could not give it to you. You believed that because you were left outside the circle, you had somehow lost a vital piece of your own worth. But look at how much ground you have covered. Look at the quiet strength you have gathered in the dark. You have realized that you do not need a loud explanation to grant yourself permission to move forward. You have learned that the shifting, natural currents of a river do not erase the beauty of the journey, even when the leaves are carried in completely different directions. You have stopped letting the turbulent, chaotic waves on the surface shatter your quiet inner moon. You have walked out of the crowded, exhausting room of pleasing others, and you have finally chosen to stand tall in the open, quiet space of your own self-respect. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that every ending is simply the beginning of a profound clearing. When you finally stop resisting the reality of their absence, a beautiful transformation occurs. The vital energy you spent wondering, analyzing, and trying to force the door back open suddenly returns to your own body. You realize that you were never actually rejected. You were gently redirected. You were quietly removed from a space that was no longer large enough to hold the person you are becoming. Imagine the shift from a heavy, freezing winter into the first quiet morning of spring. The trees do not mourn the dead leaves that fell away during the cold months. They do not demand an apology from the bitter frost. They do not ask the snow why it decided to melt. They simply stand, deeply rooted in the earth, using the wide, clear space around their bare branches to soak in the new, warm light. They allow the seasons to change without fighting the natural turn of the earth. This is your spring. The connections that faded away were simply your winter. They played their part, they taught you what you needed to learn, and now the season has turned. Think about your own life this one final time. Are you ready to stop mourning the frost? Are you ready to let the open space around you become a beautiful sanctuary of peace rather than a prison of lonely memories? Pause, breathe. Release the tight, desperate grip you have kept on the past. Unclench your hands. You no longer have to check the locks on a door that you have already chosen to walk away from. You are safe. You are entirely whole. Let them go. Let the silence be exactly what it is, a bright, empty canvas waiting for your next chapter. You have survived the quiet fading, and in the beautiful space they left behind, you have finally found the most important connection of all. You have found yourself. If these lessons touched your heart, share this video with someone who may need a little more peace today. The storm will pass. Stay with yourself.